Get on my little soapbox for a second.
It's Mark Sherwin's Contractor Marketing Soapbox.
Your guide to getting found, selected, and remembered.
And now, here's Mark.
Hey, Soapboxers, welcome back. Another special episode for you with a couple of special guest stars. I had been hearing a lot about this standard operating procedure thing, and I thought there was no better people to bring in than our friends at Gray Wolf Strategies. Please welcome Mike and Shawn. They are coming in here from Gray Wolf, and guys, definitely appreciate you taking some time. Help some of our contractor friends out with understanding standard operating procedures. And I'm going to start with the horror stories. And I'm going to let you guys just jump in at this point. Hundreds of clients, and you ask each one of them, hey, what's your standard operating procedure for answering the phone? And they all have an idea. Well, we got that around here somewhere. And they'll start looking around. And it dawned on me as I'm asking more and more. It was like 7 appointments in a row that I had. They were not talking to their team about their standard operating procedures, nor were they even keeping up with the standard operating procedure on how to answer the phone. They weren't training on it. It was almost like, yeah, we got one. Nobody follows it. And I got to imagine you hear this story more than once. Twice.
Yeah, that is a reoccurring theme. It is not uncommon to walk into any trades business anywhere and find processes and procedures that were pulled from a best practice group, pulled from a friend who has a similar company, found under high school bleachers. Wherever they can find a set of processes and procedures, people like to get their hands on them. The unique thing about that is that, as good as they are, they weren't made for you. And me and Shawn we talk about this all the time. There's best practice, but then there's best practice for us. And in the trades, I think that's probably more true than any other industry because everything's different. Your customers are different in different regions of our country. The employees are different. What works in Florida doesn't work in New York, doesn't work in California. It's just the way we do permits, the way Texas folks do permits, right? Even the way that I think licensing works. So I think having a booklet of processes and procedures that you can utilize from like a foundational perspective are good. I think it gives you like a firm kind of grip onto like what's worked for others, but you can't just adopt it. And you see that in the implementation, because if you have that book and you don't do it, secretly, it doesn't work. But they do nothing with the book. And we see this all the time. So, I mean, Shawn, you've been there with me. We've walked into rooms and seen these things, and we'll ask the question, so do we do this? And it's just like, I didn't know we had that.
Or worse, when the owner says, well, it's that book that is on the back shelf and it's full of dust, right?
Yep.
So if you're not looking at it, your team's not looking at it, right? How are we training on it? How are we conditioning our team to know what our best practice is and follow that SOP, right? I always go back to when I talk to an owner, I use the analogy, and I'm a fat guy, so I always use food. McDonald's has standard operating procedures and they are not trained well, and we can see it. And then you have Chick-fil-A who trains on it on a daily basis. And what is the difference in the experience?
It's about as true as a statement as you can make. It's why I eat at Chick-fil-A, not at McDonald's, by the way. But if I choose fast food, here's and again, and Mike, you hit the nail on the head, right? You might be part of a group. You might be part of an online mentorship or something like that. The standard operating procedure that works for the guy in Maryland, you cannot trust that that's going to work for somebody in the West Coast, in California or Oregon or wherever. And I time and again, clients come to me and they're like, I will train them. I will write down how to ask for a review, as a for instance, right? What are the best practices? How should you do that? And yeah, sounds great, Mark. Yeah, we do that all the time. And the review acquisition is less than 1 out of 10. And I ask them again, are you sure your guys and gals are in the field doing this? And oh yeah, we practice it all the time. Meanwhile, they don't practice it at all, and or the owner is so distanced from the meetings, the morning meetings, that they don't realize that it's not happening. They're not practicing. They're not role playing these things. Some of the most powerful ones that I know of today, still in existence, every team meeting, they're practicing their standard operating procedures. They're role playing with their team, bringing up a random person out of the audience. Okay, sell me this maintenance plan. Hey, how do you answer the phone? Hey, you know what? I'd love a review of my services today. And they practice it so that everybody gets better at it. What are some of the common things that you see from the people that you help that you're like, you guys are just consistently out there training and doing things? What is the outcome that a client could expect? What one of your clients, what does that transition look like? What are they? And I'm trying to equate it back to maybe a higher booking rate, more reviews, better just in general their referrals or their marketing plan. Where have you seen some successes that you can point to that you try to tell your clients, hey, this is the goal that I have for you?
Well, I think all the above, Mark. I mean, we have a mutual client in South Florida, right, that has really deep dove on getting their SOPs in order, and Mike works with them hand in hand on a daily basis. And you see what they've done in the last few years since you guys have been on board. I mean, they've tripled in growth.
Yep.
Right, and it's because they're following this process. I'll let Mike kind of talk on how he manages the team on the daily to keep them accountable for it. But what a difference from 4 years ago. They had no SOPs in place, and they were hostage to their business, and they were reactive instead of proactive, right?
Very much.
Oh, for sure. Oh, I think we can all agree on that, right?
Exactly.
We can all agree on that. What's unique to them, and it goes to even the crux of where everything should begin, is you have to have buy-in from your leaders.
Oh my gosh.
We put ourselves in the owner's seat, right? We've all been owners of something. Yep. If you were an owner and you think process and procedures need to be written down, do not even ask them to be written unless you have people who believe in them. I will tell you, at that one particular client, the service manager and the office manager are as bought in as anybody can be. They are committed to building a process that is built for them. Doesn't mean we don't start with a base, but they will maneuver it and manipulate it for the people they have in that room, because they understand not everyone's wired the same, right? So uniquely, their process and procedures that work for them, I can tell you they wouldn't work across the state, but they work for them in that building. But the way they've built them, buy-in, right? They train everyone on them. We don't make them overcomplicated. Sometimes I'll see a process and a procedure and it's 47 steps. And I'm like, you barely wanted to write it. No one's going to read it,
right?
Let alone train on it, right? There's no ownership. So when we do this, me and Shawn talk about this all the time. When we do this, who's going to implement it, right? Implementation is like, it is the part where everyone misses. Everyone misses on implementation because they spend all their time writing this document down and not enough actually testing it and seeing if it works and then making adjustments, right? Like you hardly ever see, and this is how you know a process isn't going to stick, is when a process is built and it's rolled out and no one talks about it. It just kind of like, oh, we got this cool process on how to book a call. And everybody's like, oh, this is great. And then all of a sudden it's never mentioned again. And then you go back and listen to calls and no one does it because there's not enough belief around it, right? We think of it like pencil whipping a checklist, not necessarily adopting a strategy that will inevitably lead to more money. So with that particular client, no, hats off to their leadership there because they are bought in. They're on the hook to deliver processes that work and that stick. And those individuals have done a great job.
And I'll tell you, Mike, and this is for everybody watching or listening an hour or later, you might be going, oh, God, I don't have a general manager. I don't have a front office manager. Like you need your people bought in too, right? If you don't have those things, grab your employees, sit them down in a room. I had a client, Terry Barrett, down in Air Now in Millbrook, Alabama, and he sat everybody down, and he created a process around asking for reviews. And he did this big process, and the outcome was a few more reviews. And he sat there and he was frustrated because we're seeing so many more people. And what he did, what I loved, was he put some KPIs around it. But he sat his team down and said, where's the frustration point, guys? Here's my process for asking for reviews. Where's the frustration point? So the team all said, oh, yeah, well, it's this. I don't like it the way this says. And they were able to make it their own process. So while he gave them the staple, the baseline, he turned around and said, you know what? We're going to make it yours. So everybody listening, don't sit there and think, oh, I got to hire a general manager for this to work. Bring your people in and talk to them about these processes. They will let you know what's happening in real time, in the field, on the phone, and use that. Create the product. Now it's theirs. Now there's ownership behind it. It's not just you top down telling them what to say or do. Mike, I could not agree more with that whole thought process. You mentioned it earlier, and Shawn, you alluded to it. How often do you practice their standard operating procedures with the team? Is it everyone all the time? Is it, hey, I just get in, we're going to go over the big basics? Do you create KPIs to understand where the process might be falling?
So I think, so uniquely, it's when we implement a process that will give us that kind of feedback loop. So at a new hire, right, it is like 101 stuff, whether they know it or not. All of those processes are how we do it now. We've always done and always will, right? So there's really, it's a lot easier when there's a new onboard and you have all your processes, you can train from scratch and you have that training. It becomes a little bit more complex when we put all these process and procedures off to the side. And then one day when I train 15 people in an office how to do them all, that is a unique thing to tackle for any company across any vertical. But the philosophy has to be, we're going to do it until you know it, right? When I was many, many, many years ago, when I was in finance, we had a process that we all had to learn. It was payment, cash, tax, term deferral. And it's like, I'll never forget the process, right? So we would learn this method of presenting options in a way where we showed everybody their payment reductions and their tax deferments. And it was just this like flow of how we presented. But it was, we had all been in this business. We had all been in this industry and we were having to learn a new thing. But the philosophy in that meeting was, you're all going to adopt this. Like, we're not leaving until we all know it. Like, that's what it was. And uniquely, whether it's bandwidth, whether it's time, whether it's belief, we don't do that with our current employees as much as we do with our new ones. So I would say with your new employees, there should never be a miss on getting them standardized in the way we do things. It should be very easy to get someone who's never been at your company to perform a task in a certain way. But it is difficult when you're doing all these changes. And that's why changes have to be gauged properly, right? As an owner, you have to set the expectation that one or two or three things is probably enough, right? If you're going to do something on review asking, you're going to do something on call booking, I wouldn't throw inventory and ride-alongs and with all the tools we have now, that's all people are pumping out. Like, they are not helpful. Pumping out 22 processes and procedures for your business because you found a Google site to do this, like, that is not productive because you'll never implement that, right? So you have to take off small chunks and you have to really stand there and say, we are going to practice until we get it right.
Mike, I'm going to jump in.
If that makes sense.
The one thing that Mike does well when he implements this, and I'm going to give him a ton of credit, is coin champions and resistors. And so big implementations, and I've taken this style from him quite a bit, is we find the biggest champion in the business and we find the biggest resistor in the business. And we beta test with them a new SOP or a new workflow. And so you get that feedback from the top, you get the feedback from the bottom, right? The person who's always negative. And what's great about that is when you go to implement it with the whole team, you can talk about it. You can have the champion talk about it, and then you can talk about the things the resistor brought up, and we've already resolved them, right? So the one person who maybe runs back into the parking lot during the little gossip around the trucks. Who's like, can you believe they're making us do this? Well, he's already participated or she has participated. And so we can point to that. We've got the buy-in from them, right? So I don't know if you want to expand on that, Mike, but I wanted to touch on that because I think it's important to get your team involved early on both spectrums.
Yeah, and here at Graywolf, if we don't step into a process or a procedure, especially building one, unless we've identified who your champions are and who your resistors are, because we have them. We have some people that will complain. If you gave them $1 million, they'd complain on how it was delivered, right? Like, I want it overnighted, right? So because we have that in our business, we have to identify who's going to have our back in the room and who's going to kind of challenge us. Rightfully so. Some things should be challenged, especially when you're trying to uniformly say this will always work, because that's what a process really is, right? It's to the best of our ability. This will always work. And people of a certain personality will challenge that and they'll hold your feet to the fire in that. So if I start off by having a meeting and we put the process on the board, we draw it up with some leadership, and then we say, let's bring in Shawn, my champion. Let's bring in Mark, my resistor. I'm going to have you guys challenge me, tell me what you can get behind, what you can't get behind right there, right? Like, tell me what you don't like, because the loudest people in the room when you implement are resistors. They are the loudest. They are the most persuadable, right? It's just kind of what happens. But if you can answer all their questions before launch, that process sticks a lot better.
I hope everybody took that single-handedly. One of the best pieces of advice I've heard is to identify that resistor. I didn't think of it that way, and that is an amazingly powerful tool, because now the what did you call it, water cooler chat, right? That resistor, the one that everybody goes to and thinks they're going to get they're going to be in line. Oh, I can't believe they have me doing this. No, dude, I kind of agree with this. I kind of like this. This is kind of neat the way it's going. I absolutely love that, because a lot of those conversations do happen outside of the purview of the owner or anybody that would be in here, top down this thing. Do it this way, do it my way, et cetera, so forth. So I absolutely love that. That is a great piece of advice. And I'm going to, we kind of touched on it, but I want to touch on it again because I want to come back to change is difficult. You see that new tool, you go to one of the shows, I got to do this thing, and I got to put this widget on my website, and I got to do this over here. And there's so many people that are just like, oh, it's magic. All of a sudden, everything starts working and it better. But it goes down to even the details. When you change the coupons on your website, when you change, who needs to know that, right? It's always a marketing person telling the marketing company, oh, put this $29 coupon up, okay? And then I listen to phone calls. People call, hey, I like that $29 tuna. We have one of those? Like, that immediately sets that client off on the wrong foot. Like, you guys don't know what you have to offer? So that change is also very, very powerful, and training on that change, in education, leadership. Who's in charge of letting the CSRs know that there's a coupon on the website? Who's in charge of letting the CSRs know that a certain type of lead that may come in is more valuable because you paid for it than another type of lead? We just heard a horror story, guys. A person called in, Google local service ads. So it's a paid lead. They were on the phone for 4.5 minutes. They booked the appointment 2 minutes in. By the 4.5 minute mark, she talked herself out of the appointment and told her to go call the person that installed it more than 5 years ago. And I'm pretty sure they were following some sort of procedure that said, ask if the system is 5 years old or newer or whatever, right? No, book the call. That was the important part of that, right? You have to be flexible in your procedures. So I know I covered a couple things on there, but training and flexibility on procedures. What is your advice to contractors out there?
Always be training. Always be training. Your CSR should be at least weekly listening to calls, and you should be listening to 2 or 3 good calls, right? So we can highlight the positivity and the things that followed our workflows.
Love it.
And then identify the same amount that didn't go so well so we can see where we can learn upon it. And the same goes with our techs, role playing in the field. following our steps to the service call, doing it the way we dictate it, right? I think it's important. Repetition is just like professional athletes, right? They shoot 100 free throws before a game, and they toss the ball back and forth for hours before they go up there to swing at the plate, whatever it is. I think it's important to make sure that we are doing it repetitiously, right? And so we can correct and adjust as we go along, and we fine tune, right? Maybe we find that unicorn who's found a better way to do it. And that's where those SOPs, where Mike had said it earlier, right? SOPs are best practice for me. And that's where we can go in and maybe make those tweaks and changes, because we constantly improve things as we go along.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You know, what's funny is we also never show people, and I don't say we, but you'll see the clients, the companies that struggle with this the most, they never show people the process works. They just theoretically tell them it works. And what happens is, you know, I would say processes are good for 85% of the activity in any certain vertical, because there is nuance to this, right? It's like, oh, a client called me, but it wasn't really them. It was the wife of the owner of the client. And I had to track, like, it's always some little nuance that we miss. It doesn't fit the cookie cutter process that we might have developed. But the biggest thing is we don't show anyone it works. We just tell them that this is our new process and we're going to do it. And when they run into these nuances, the baby goes out with the bathwater. Like, it didn't work every time. Well, I know, but give it some reps. It'll work. I promise. Like, but not that one time. Correct. But if you don't have these transparent conversations, if you set the wrong expectation, you know, this is where I see people struggle so much, is in that area. They just, for some reason, right, they don't believe in the process, because even though we've talked about it and we've met about it and everyone in leadership thinks it's the greatest thing ever, the person who does the activity doesn't believe in it. And most of the times it's a lack of belief, because I've seen scenarios where people create processes and then the person who creates the process steps in and does it completely different than their process, right? It's a rules for me, or rules for thee, not for me situation, right? I mean, we have clients that do that, where they build a process for their CSRs, and then when their CSR is out, they answer the phone. None of that process took place. It was completely the way the owner wanted to do it, or the manager wanted to do it. So again, it almost becomes this kind of like, I don't believe you that it works, because if it did, everybody would do it. And that person doesn't do it when they answer the phone, and that person does half of it. And that person, you know, does their own thing. So, I mean, we can go off for hours on why they don't work. It's mind blowing. For it to work, you got to get people to believe that it's a solution for the problems they run into.
And that probably all by itself is its own procedure process.
It probably is.
It just getting people to understand that, and giving them, you know, and even in my line of work, there's certain people just need, here's your instruction manual, follow this, right? Then there's the visionary like I am, and I'm already 3 steps ahead and thinking about tomorrow, and that's just my way my brain works. I hear a lot about these tests and these things that you can tell, what type of person are you? And does that ever parlay? Does that play into what you guys do? Is understanding personality?
I feel like that's all we do.
Fair enough.
Yeah. I would say that stuff is good stuff. So as far as those tests and stuff to know your employees, it's going to help you when you do these things. But there's I would say a large portion of that stuff is self-fulfilling prophecy, right? It's almost like when you have small children, you tell them they're great at stuff. And what do you know? They become great at it. I think these personality tests that we conduct and we do, they give us a good sense of what people, how people like to focus on things, what they like to focus on. And you could build things that way. And it does stick. There's a high percentage of it that's work. But in theory, we should be assuming that our employees are great and they can do all the things we need them to do. And everything we implement is to make their lives easier because we know they're capable. I mean, I use a line all the time. I use it all the time with most of my leadership. It's like, if I wouldn't be introducing this to you if I didn't think you can do it. Like, I would not waste that time. And we should be asking ourselves about the processes we build. Is this something that I believe they can do and they can do it well? Because you will see some companies, I mean, me and Shawn have been to so many at this point. We've been to some that run on paper and pen, and they do $2 million. And the guy's like, we don't work on computers here. It's like, this is incredible. But then you see some that have all the technology in the world and they can't crack 1.5. It's really interesting to see how it's just the belief in what works. Yep. Right? We've had people have CRM systems they pay a ton of money for, and they never utilize any of the features because they don't believe in them, even though all of the processes and procedures are all mapped out on videos and everything else. So it really just goes back to knowing your employees and knowing what they're capable of and what they'll buy into. And then again, building something they believe works and that it'll solve the problem they're faced with. If we're building a process that doesn't solve a problem, we're probably wasting our time on the wrong process.
Very much so. It's kind of, I don't know how to describe this. One of the things that I found most, I don't know, I'm looking for the word, attractive for having these procedures and policies put in place ahead of time is it actually attracts the right employee as well. And I get a lot of these, companies, I'm trying to hire. Right. I have other companies that they've got more people applying than they have jobs to fill. And I ask, why? It's because, brand has something to do with the types of trucks they drive around in and the swag they get. But at the same time, right? I'm clear, this is what they need me to do. It's easy. This is how they're expecting me to operate in the field. And they really appreciate that aspect of the company that they're applying for. And it attracts the right type of employee. I'm assuming you guys, have had stories like that or circumstances where you've seen that exact scenario. Maybe Mike, maybe from down our mutual client down in Florida. Have you seen that? Is that something that happens in the real world? Can a standard operating procedure actually attract the right employees?
I think there are a group of employees, mostly office centric, that want that. So I mean, obviously there's a ton of motivators that people are after. Sure. The ones that I typically think in the trades that I've found where they're the most relevant, right? People want words of affirmation and all that. It's kind of the love language of how our employees move and how they act. But you'll have a group of employees that they're after the money, right? They're monetarily incentivized individuals, and that's what they want. You'll have some that want work-life balance. They want to see their family. They've put their years in. They want to have a balance. There are a group of people that want structure and they want process in their lives. They want Monday to look like next Monday and Friday to look like next Friday. And they want a consistency in how the dispatch board works, and they want a consistency. That's what they're looking for. And you'll find this, especially if you're interviewing properly, which I spend a lot of time training people on that. But if you're interviewing properly, you can identify this stuff very early on how adaptable somebody is to wanting these things in place on day one. And if they're like, oh my gosh, that's what I've been looking for that for years. So I've heard people say that in interviews. Oh, it's chaos every day at my last company. Oh, was it the money? No, I made plenty of money. Oh, was it you didn't get to see your family? No, I saw my family plenty. I don't work weekends. I was like, okay, what was it? Like, it's chaos. It's constant chaos. The board was never the same. The best call, best tech was never the same. It was so arbitrary that we just couldn't get on the same page. It drove me crazy, and my commissions would be wrong. And everything from there spirals down. And we all know if you miss anybody's paycheck in the trades, you've lost them. Right. But all this stuff ties that. Without these, I mean, even the process of doing payroll properly, tracking commissions properly, all that stuff is stuff that a lot of employees long for, that stuff. And I can appreciate owners that take that seriously, right? That kind of have that desire to put those things in play. But if you don't implement them, you're just like everyone else. A great idea.
Market was quiet on that.
Well, I look at, I'm with Mike on exactly what he said. And I think where we get lost in the weeds is, and I'm sure somebody's going to go take some takeaways here and go, I got to get SOPs in place. And they're going to go online and they're going to buy one of these $10,000 manuals. But again, it's not going to be best practice for me. And I think that's the important part, is tailoring it to yourself. We have all the tools and resources with AI and everything else. I mean, I think the basic thing that we're missing is we got to get back to basics, and we have to build it around the team we have, and we have to build it around the workflows we have. And then we have to just fine tune it. You know, when I do a sales and service training, and it's talking about moving little things. And so I always point to John Wooden, the old UCLA basketball coach. And so I always go, guys, he won, 7 championships and had 4 undefeated seasons and had a winning percentage over 80%. But what I always remind them is he had a saying that he said, it's little things that are vital. Little things make big things happen. And he didn't win his first championship till the 16th season of coaching. So think about that, right? How many times did he just make little adjustments over those 16 years before he found the formula? And he didn't stop. He continued and continued. We have to do the same in our businesses. And the part of that is we get so busy in the weeds that sometimes we forget to hold those manager meetings, to do the one-on-ones with our techs. That feedback of what's working and what's not working is where we make those changes in those SOPs. But we get so busy because we're in Florida and it's July, or we're in Canada and it's January, right? Or whatever it is, and it's heating, cooling season, or, you know, we're having tons of plumbing problems, whatever it is, that we skip those steps and then the foundation starts to crack. And so I think it's important to get back to the basics.
I can't agree more. And I know we got a couple questions here, but I think Ray pops them up here on us yeah, I got an email question. Okay. Do you bring in champs and resistors in one meeting or separately? That's a good question.
Yeah, so I love that. That's great. So you can bring them. So the way I prefer to do it is I always isolate the resistor first and set the expectation of what because they'll resist almost anything. Like, these are the folks that will resist anything. Whenever I do these big national trainings, I'll hear people go, I'll define what a resistor is, and everybody will look at each other going, oh yeah, I know. Yeah, I got a few of those, right? Everyone has them. I would say champions, they have your back no matter what. I mean, they're going to be behind you. They got you. They're going to, even when you don't have the best of ideas, you got someone who has your back trying, right? You have those folks. Your resistors, pull them off separately, explain to them what you're trying to do. And as soon as they start pushing back, you should praise them for that and explain to them, that's why I want you there when we build it, right? The idea should be, we've been working on this process, Shawn, and I really want your opinion because I feel it's valuable. And what are your thoughts? And he's going to, what about this? And what about that? I'm like, this is why I want you in the room with us. And then I bring Shawn in with the expectation of, guys, if we can answer Shawn's questions, no one's going to say this isn't going to work. Like, he's the one who's going to challenge us most. So yes, separately for the resistor, but then when you go into process building mode, right, you have your foundational process, bring your resistor in line by line. What do you see? What do you don't see? Where are the challenges? Resistors will give you challenges from other people that aren't in the room.
Yep.
I mean, I've had a resistor go, well, no, that won't work for Kevin, Lucas, Jonathan, or Terry. And I'm like, okay, well, let's figure it out for them too. I'm glad you're here. Because that's just how they think, right? It's just this cynical approach. But they know how to build rapport. They're good with people. Like, it's still, they have all the same relational qualities. They just look at the world slightly different. So talk to them privately, bring them into the room, go through the process, and do your best to, by the time they leave, you should be able to say, we fixed that, right, though, Shawn? You like it now? Awesome. And how about this? Does this make more sense now? Oh, you do? Great. Oh, you don't like this, Shawn? Well, what do you think? And it's easy for me to swallow because at the end of the day, I don't have any ego in this. Like, a process isn't my way. Like, I don't care about that. I just want it to be the way everybody will do it, right? And if someone looks at me and says, well, Mike, we don't want to do it your way. I'm like, great. Will you do it Shawn's way? Well, everybody will do it Shawn. Well, let's do it Shawn's way. That's a win. I'll do that. So it's not about forcing your hand to make it all work, right? It's not what it is at all. It's about bringing in the processes that are going to stick. And resistors have an amazing way of showing people, this one works, guys. This one works. So that answers your question.
Are you saying having resistors in your business is a good thing?
It's a good thing. It's a good thing.
It is, as long as they're, and I'm going to preface this, as long as they're not the cancer in the company too.
Toxic, correct. I don't stand for disrespect to owners.
Right.
And if I see that, resistors are gone. That is like one of the number one things that I will look for in resistors, because if they're at that point, They just like to see things burn.
They-
Right. And there are some of those folks too. So yes, toxic. I'm with you. We move on.
I think we're getting a couple of questions in, so I'll let Ray pop them up here. We had another email question. How do you know if you got an SOP wrong, and when should you give up on an idea? I'll never give up on an idea. I'll improve the SOP. But what do you guys say to that?
So I've heard this stat. I'm pretty sure I heard it from Mike. I'm giving him a ton of credit here on this. But 70% of first-time implementations fail. 70% of the time, a first-time implementation fails. And so I think the big thing is sticking with it, building the consistency, making sure you've got the consistency of trying it down first before we scrap or we make those pivots. So I think the first thing is making sure the team's all doing it. They're all doing it the same way. And if it's still failing, then it's about making adjustments. But Mike, I'll default to you as far as how long you think you give up before you move on from it. But for me, they say 21 times to make a habit. So that's about how long I'm going to drill through my team till I get there.
It's an interesting question. The way I would look at it is start with the processes people want. Like that is huge. Like don't start with things that people don't want fixed, right? Like if you've got a 90% booking rate and things are moving and you have 3 CSRs in a room and they're all slightly different, but you're not struggling, don't start there. But then you look over at permits and you realize you're installing heaters without permits. That's where we want to kind of zoom in because I'm telling you, everyone feels that pain. So start there. Start where the pain is. Give them a win. In our industry, especially in the office, we don't give people enough things to win, right? You take a CSR, for example. When do they win? They don't often win, right? They take a call, they book a call, they handle issues, they give it to the tech. The technician goes there, closes the sale. I mean, the CSR is kind of this activity that just kind of never stops. But if you build a really good permit process or a really good booking or just a process that works and they feel a sense of completion, they will do it. I mean, every client I go into, when I sit down with them, I always ask that whenever I'm evaluating the office team, it's how often do you feel like you just win? Do you just had a great day? And it is few and far between because everything is like this wheel that just continues to roll. But a good process will give people a sense of completion. Everyone needs that. Technicians get it naturally. Owners get it naturally, right? Office managers get it naturally. The people in the weeds, they sometimes will never feel that. So start with processes that people want, right? And if they're not doing it, so I've built processes for, this is a good example. It was a full home evaluation for a plumbing company. And I mean, the owner and the service manager spent all this time beautifully making this full home evaluation. Nobody could do it. Nobody would do it. They all say they love it, Mike, but they won't do it. Why won't they do it? Well, we had a meeting. We brought them in. And once we sat them down, we simply said, do you guys want to do this or do we want to change it a bit? Let's change it a bit. What would you change? By the time we left that meeting, every technician in that room was like, oh my goodness, this is perfect. This is perfect. This is like, it's long enough to give me opportunity, but short enough not to hold me there all day. And the whole vibe changed around it. Yeah. So it was, again, just inviting them into the process. Now, some folks, you can't do that. They're too new, too inexperienced. But we all have a few people in our business where we can bring them in and walk through these things. So a little bit long of an answer. I hope that's helpful.
I believe it was. It actually gave me, a point I wanted to make is that start with a goal. What is the end goal? Okay, at the end of the call, I want referrals, I want a happy client, and I want a review. Like if that's your end game, how do we backwards engineer a standard operating procedure to meet that goal? And it goes for anything. I want more reviews. Great. How are you asking? Right. We work backwards from the goal to create the procedure, the process to get there. And for an owner, right, I'm worried about the goal. How I get to that point, I'm not as worried about. As a visionary, especially, like my brain bounces all over, but I know the goal. I know what I want to finish with. So if you're looking for a little piece of advice and it's a tough policy or procedure or something that you're building, start with your goal. I find that to be very helpful in our company. I did have, and we can talk all day on this stuff, and I appreciate y'all's time, and I want to be cognizant of that. One of the things that everybody that might be listening to this in the future or now, where do I start? And I know you guys have kind of we'll call it an outline for a best practices kind of thing that you could give to a client to start their process on thinking about a process and how they would incorporate that. I'd love for anybody listening to this, Mike, I'm gonna give something away for you for free. Shawn already knows I do this all the time to him. Is there an email that somebody could send a request to and get this starter package? Hey, here's a best practice that you get to go and modify to you. Is there an email address or a way that we can send people over to your website and get that?
Yeah, well, what I'll do is I'll get something up on the website, and I'll have it done this week. In the meantime, I would say Mike at graywolfstrategies.com. Mike, you've got an outline on how to build an SOP, don't you?
Yeah, if they want to reach out to me directly, that could be a real easy way to do it. I'm happy to give them the outline I typically start with. And you hit the nail on the head, right? It start with a goal, and then it literally moves down to break it into simple steps, and nothing's too obvious, and, assign responsibility, because that's, again, for the implementation to stick. And this is where this is where I think all of our power lies, is in the implementation. Like, it just lies there. But that part right there, assign responsibility, it has to be measurable. It has to be trackable. And someone's got to put their neck on the line and say, yeah, I'm going to make sure this gets implemented. If you don't have that, you certainly don't even have a champion. So that's our first initiative, right? We build something, it's got to solve a problem, and you've got to have somebody go, yeah, I want this. You'll see this it happens really easily when you start talking about like price books. Certain technicians will raise their hand. I'll be in charge of price book. I want to help, because it matters so much to them, right? Sure. It just does. They want to price jobs properly. We have people all the time raise their hands for, oh, please, I'll update prices, and you'll feel like this top sales guy, now he's asking for extra time on the weekend to update our price book. Like, he wants access. Like, that's incredible to uncover that stuff. Yep. This will walk you through kind of a step-by-step process of how we do it. Happy to help people if they have questions, but I can absolutely provide that to people if they need it.
And I can't, for anybody considering somebody to help them, these guys here at Gray Wolf are phenomenal. They've built companies. Shawn and I have known each other probably longer than I've known Mike, but from a Florida company, right? You were one of my first, Shawn, you were one of my first PE firms came in and grabbed you, but and then it just became an epidemic after that. But I learned so much from you during that time, and those are the same strategies and things that you guys are trying to teach the teams today. So if you're considering going out and looking for a partner, I cannot express to you enough, the folks here at Gray Wolf are phenomenal at what they do, and the best part is you work with the leadership there, right? They're not hiding behind the employees. They're not sitting in those ivory towers. They're right there for you, working right alongside you. And yes, he is a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan. That's okay. We don't hold that completely against him. But I'm a Steelers fan, so I can't much say anything about recently. Happy with 500. Is that what you told me, Shawn? I'll be happy with 500. I appreciate you all. If you, and again, contact Mike, contact Gray Wolf if you have any questions about those things, and contact Leads Nearby if you have any questions about how this equates to marketing or like some ideas, and even how to ask for a review for your company. More than happy to help. We appreciate your time. Thanks again, guys.
Awesome. Thank you, Mark.
Pleasure.
It's Mark Sherwin's Contractor Marketing Soapbox. Call Mark to learn more. 919-758-8420.